By the late 13th century, the Mongols had reduced Baghdad to ashes and dismantled the opposite caliphate. They poured across Central Asia, annihilating nearly every army that stood in their way. When that force finally turned toward northern India, the rulers of the Delhi Sultanate responded with a strategy of strategic retreat. Sultans like Iltutmish and Balban avoided direct clashes, relying on cautious positioning to survive. Then, in 1296, Alauddin Khalji seized the throne. He murdered his own uncle during a supposed reconciliation meeting, took the gold he had plundered from the Deccan, and used it to purchase the immediate loyalty of Delhi's army and citizens. Between 1297 and 1306, the Mongol Chagatai Khanate directed 5 full-scale invasions at the Indian subcontinent. Alauddin met them 5 times, and 5 times he defeated them. Alauddin achieved this record by pivoting from traditional defense to a model of total economic mobilization. He didn't just fight the Mongols. He engineered a state specifically designed to make their defeat inevitable. The first tests of this new state came quickly. In 1297 and again in 1299, massive Mongol detachments crossed the frontier and carved a path deep into the Punjab region. Instead of hiding, Alauddin dispatched his generals to meet them head-on. At the battles of Jaran Manjor and Kili, Delhi's cavalry routed the invaders, proving the Mongols could be defeated in a traditional pitched battle. But these tactical victories did not stop the raids. The Chagatai Khanate absorbed the losses and sent more men, in greater numbers with terrifying frequency. Winning open-field battles was a losing strategy. The sheer volume of Mongol manpower meant even a series of victories would bleed Delhi's resources to the point of collapse. This crisis reached a breaking point in 1299. A force of 200,000 Mongols bypassed the border garrisons entirely and marched straight to the gates of Delhi. Refusing to engage, Alauddin pulled his troops inside the under-construction Siri fort on the outskirts of the city. He successfully outweighted the invaders, but the experience of watching Mongols plunder his suburbs from the safety of his walls changed his entire approach to defense. He determined that permanent safety required a standing force of 300,000 troops permanently stationed on the northwestern frontier, a scale of military power the Sultanate had never attempted to maintain. This was a problem of pure mathematics. The left bar shows Delhi's tax revenue. The right bar represents the cost of this new army. Attempting to fund this force through normal taxation would instantly bankrupt the state. Alauddin didn't raise taxes. He lowered the cost of the army by forcing down the cost of living. He implemented a rigid system of price controls, aggressively slashing the cost of grain, cloth, and horses far below their normal market value. He deployed 2 independent spy networks to monitor the markets, using the threat of immediate punishment to enforce these low prices. This allowed Alauddin to adequately pay a massive standing army entirely in cash. By treating the economy as a weapon, Alauddin solved a military crisis with a structural intervention that anticipated modern economic theory by several centuries. The system worked. When the 4th Mongol invasion arrived in 1303, the newly funded and supplied frontier army repelled it with little difficulty. In 1306, a large Mongol force crossed the Ravi River. Alauddin's forces, led by General Malik Kafur, inflicted a military defeat so absolutely crushing that the Chagatai Khanate never recovered its appetite for invading India. To finalize his victory, Alauddin expanded Siri Fort. According to contemporary accounts, he incorporated the skulls of 8,000 slaughtered Mongols into the foundations as a permanent statement of his power. The Mongol invasions stopped because Alauddin had made them prohibitively expensive. He didn't rely on a peace treaty, he relied on a war machine that his enemies could no longer afford to challenge. A secure northern border allowed Alauddin to unleash his army southward. His forces conquered deep into the Deccan, returning with wealth that extended the Sultanate's reach to the tip of the Indian peninsula. But this security had a high internal cost. The price control system destroyed the livelihoods of many merchants, while the Sultan's intense paranoia led to the violent purging of his own inner circle. This system was built on the personal authorities of one man. When Alauddin died in 1316, the intelligence networks collapsed and the army fragmented. His dynasty vanished within 4 years of his passing. Today, the man who defeated the world's most successful conquerors lies in this modest tomb. His name is largely absent from global histories of the medieval world. The regime died with him, but the record stands. Systemic economic engineering neutralized a threat that had destroyed every other empire in its path. Alauddin Khalji proved that existential military threats require structural economic answers.